Good evening. Good evening. Today we're going to talk about PPP forgiveness. It's already past the deadline for new applicants, but is people still getting their money? Yes. So we're going to jump into all of that in just a few minutes. Remember to like and share this video, and it may help a small business owner that you may know. Good evening. Good evening. Today we're going to talk about PPP forgiveness. PPP funds are still dropping for people that put their application in prior to the deadline of May the 31st of 2021. So could you still be awarded your funds? Yes. Remember towards the end that CDFIs, that means minority banks, underserved banks, institutes, were still taking application. They were allotted the last $8 billion of PPP funds, so that way they could get their piece of the pie for PPP. Do we foresee PPP coming back anytime soon? No, we don't. But I want to talk to you because a lot of people are talking about PPP forgiveness. You don't have to be in a rush to do your PPP forgiveness. You must have exhausted all of your funds before you apply for forgiveness. You will not have your first payment until for 10 months. So you have plenty of time before your first payment is due in order to apply for your forgiveness. So you got, and then they give you that 24 weeks. So you have a year before it's even going to kick in for you to start paying the money back. So if you say you had your payroll is not that large and it's taking you a little bit longer to spend the funds, then you can do that. You don't have to be in a hurry or anxious to do your PPP forgiveness. Some banks, because they are still funding, like I said, the CDFIs that had the last $8 billion, they were so focused on getting those last PPPs done. Remember that if you went through like Blue Acorn, Smart Biz, some of those other places, they were the processors on your file. They are not your actual, some of them are not your actual lender, like Womply, different places, Lendio, that shot your information out. I didn't mean to say Smart Biz, but that shot your information out to other companies, and now your loan documents that you sign is with a particular company. Well, the federal government only requires that you do the one-page certification if you got less than $150,000. Well, some of the banks have created what they call their own overlays, where they're asking for additional documentation just because they want to have their I's crossed and their I's dotted and their T's crossed, and to make sure that they're giving forgiveness to the right people. So you can do your forgiveness, but your bank may require you to have documentation. Some banks may only require the certification to be signed electronically with no documentation at all, which is awesome. Or there may be very limited documentation that they're requesting. Remember, and a lot of people that are watching are sole proprietors. That means that they were the only person in their business. They didn't actually have a payroll, and they only had to pay themselves. Remember that you can take 60 at least, that means the minimum 60% of your PPP funds and pay yourself. Well, you can take the whole entire 100% because remember, at least means the minimum is of 60%. So that means you can do 65%, 70%, 80%, or the whole 100%. A lot of people, it's a lot easier for them to do the whole 100% for forgiveness towards payroll, because if your bank is requiring documentation, it's less things that you have to get together. Now, if you opt not to take the whole 100% towards your wages and you want to write off some of your fixed expenses, some of your overhead to count for the other 40%, you are at liberty to do that. So you can do that on approved costs, but the easier thing for the purpose of documentation is to do enough payroll to take up the 100%. So then that way you only got to submit your payroll. But like I said, you can still do your approved expenses. Right now, some banks have not started doing the forgiveness. That does not mean for you to panic or to go crazy or start calling SBA, because it must go through your lender. What you have to do is once they start, some of your lenders will even reach out to you. If you were in that first batch last summer, you would have seen at the beginning of the year, they reached out to you. Well, if you were in this second round, this last round of people with PPP, your lenders will start reaching out to you when they started. You can reach out to the lender, but don't panic. Don't get in a hissy if your bank has not started doing the forgiveness. Remember that you've got the 24 weeks to spend the money, which is 6 months, and then you don't have your first payment for 10 months. So you've got plenty of time to do the forgiveness. Some people are getting really anxious about it, but make sure that you've exhausted all of the funds before you apply for the forgiveness, because if you get audited, you want them to come back and be able to document those funds. That if you said you gave 100% to payroll, then you want to be able to show 100% went to payroll, even if they don't request any documentation from you, but you are at liberty to do that. And then once you submit for your forgiveness, it depends on how backed up these lenders are. You should get your forgiveness within probably 6 to 8 weeks. That's what we were seeing doing the first, before they changed the formula, when they did PPP last summer. We saw the turnaround for forgiveness was at about 6 to 8 weeks. So even after you apply for the forgiveness, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. They'll send you a satisfaction. So then that way, that's your documentation that you do not have to pay the loan back. Well, in the event that you do your forgiveness incorrectly, then, and you have to pay a portion of it back, then you will be, your interest rate will be 1% or for 60 months, which is a 5-year period. So if you only paying 1%, if you got $10,000, you're only going to pay a 1% interest on that money. If you can't, if you don't have where you appropriately spent that money to get it forgiven. So again, a lot of people are not doing forgiveness right now because they just still are processing their last little bit of PPP or funds that was allocated to them for PPP. But there are some lenders that are actually doing them and make sure that you've exhausted the funds. A lot of the SBA right now is focused on EIDL. That's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. They are focusing on giving people modifications. That means they're giving them more funds since the last time. The cap last time was $150,000. Now they are increased the cap to $500,000 on the modification. We are seeing that a lot of people are coming back where there's no transcript. And if they can't find your 2019 transcript, then they're looking at your 2018 transcript to kind of try to help them verify your income. But for some reason, some of these are not taken. The transcript is coming back unverifiable. A lot of people's tax returns, if they were filed via U.S. Postal Service, not electronically, they may not have a transcript. Also, if you did not file your taxes, but you want to increase, you got to get your taxes filed, because even if you apply for the increase and they deny you, you can apply for a reconsideration. And if you want to speed up the process, a lot of people are going and getting appointments through the IRS to get their taxes clocked in, stamped in. We're seeing where loan officers are not taking those, but people are submitting them for reconsideration due to the backlog of the IRS so that they can get their funds. So again, and if you need any help with your PPP forgiveness, you can DM me or reach out to our office. Also, this week, we've got a contest running. So go back and look on our wall on Facebook and look at our contest that's running. We're going to have 3 $100 winners tomorrow, and I'm going to announce who they are and what it means. And also, I'm going to give you some free game on real estate investing. So be sure to like and share our page on Instagram, Facebook, as well as YouTube. Have a great night.